Welcome to the Frequency Labyrinth. I am Adrienne McDonald, your host. This podcast is for you if you're done with surface level self-help and ready for something deeper and actually transformative. Around here, we work with ancient wisdom, human design, gene keys, and shamanic practices, not as knowledge to collect, but as tools to live by. This isn't about one size fits all. It's about learning to work with your energy, your design, and your life. This is about integration and embodiment. We go deep here with ancient wisdom, practical integration, so that you can develop ironclad self-trust. Let's get into it. Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back, or welcome if it's your first time. We have a treat today. I have invited one of my Celtic Shamanic practitioner training buddies, one of my peers, to join me today to talk about our experiences in training and how Judy is working with this practice in her work now. So welcome, Judy Crooknorth. Thank you for joining me.
The pleasure.
Judy, I know that you're a longtime practitioner at this point, and you're also a trained therapist, but why don't you give just a couple of minutes of your background so people have some context? Because I did not have the foresight to get a bio from you to do it myself.
That's fine. I don't mind introducing myself. So I came from a background of complex, traumatic childhood and always wanted to help and felt that that was my in. There was some sort of connection between my trauma and my helping. And I thought I had it several times throughout my 20s and my 30s even. And I lent into counselling therapy. I lent into spiritual practices. I lent into every which way that I could. And I couldn't quite find a thing that felt like this was the way I was going to make that difference. And I lent into the trauma too much for my story. What I learned through my shamanic training was that I lent into my natural gifts more. And that found me the balance of being able to hold space for other people in a way that I needed. When I was on my journey, I wanted somebody who could hold space without overlaying their own story on me. And so many practitioners in helping areas now don't have the ability to be what we know as the hollow bone, to be a conduit for healing without bringing your own stuff with you. And it's no easy task. It was an interesting accumulation, but everything I found that all the things that I've done, and I berated myself for my ADHD brain of I'm going to do this course and I'm going to do this course, I'm going to do this, I'm going to collect all these certificates. But actually what I found now is that I've collected all of these skill sets. They're exactly what the clients I'm meeting are needing. So I've really settled into a space of this is what it was about, which is quite lovely.
I think it's really interesting that you brought up a lot of people in the healing arts, and I would say even outside of therapists, bring their stuff into the room with during the process. Because I think that's one of the most challenging things I see out there is, and I don't think that in any healing modality, this is emphasized enough about the concept of being the hollow vessel, the hollow bone, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that people realize the amount of work it takes
My goodness.
to embody that, because sometimes it's really hard. I know I have stepped away from, hey, I can't work with you because I'm not in the space right now to do that, or I can't work with you because I don't think we're a good fit, because I knew I couldn't hold the space. Have you had that experience too?
Absolutely. And I think there's been several times I've stopped in my training and gone, right, I'm ready to provide healing. I can help people. And actually what I've done is created trauma bonds with people because I've just attracted somebody who's in the same story that I am, and I wasn't in position to help. And I think that's why we see it so often, because it is hard. It is really hard to go through that, because you have to go through all of that for yourself to be able to hold that space. And I've had people, and I don't think I won't start two sentences there. I don't think I'll ever be at the point where I'm ever done. I think there will always be another layer to the onion. And I used to feel that that was incomplete. I actually feel like that's due diligence now. That's CPD. That's an ongoing development for me, that I will constantly be looking to see if there's anything else I can peel off. And I think because of that, there's always going to be somebody I'm going to meet that's at a stage that's beyond what I can hold space for, beyond what I have capacity for. There will be a stage beyond what I'm at. There's certain experiences that I just won't hold space for, because I don't think, not that I don't feel qualified to do it, I just don't feel, it doesn't feel aligned for me to be holding space for people, specific people. And it was a journey in actually saying no. I said yes far too many times and held space for people. And that was always one of my things, was the never saying no. I always said yes. And it was actually when I did your booklet you did with human design, and it does all the breakdowns of everything. And it laid out in there my personality on paper. And I was like, okay. And it was, can say yes too often. Okay. Yeah, I do that.
That is the shadow side of a gift. It's the shadow side of a gift.
And it was amazing. And it felt lovely to be seen and understood and defined by something else other than my trauma, which I was for so many decades. And this was about gifts, and it was quite beautiful, but it did call me out for taking on too much.
The human design blueprint does have a tendency to do that. It's like, okay, I'm going to call you out, even if you don't want to be called out.
Stripped bare.
And sometimes you'll look at something and go, that's not me. And then you think about it and go, man, yeah, it really is me.
Yes. I have that with cards sometimes, quite often, if you do a card pull, and I'll be like, yeah, that's not landing right now. And I'm really dismissive, and I'm like, come back to that. And I'll come back and I'll be like,
100%. Cards are always calling me out too. But 100%. Did you start with Celtic shamanism, or did you start with a different form of it?
I came through witchcraft and Wicca, through that spirituality route, and it didn't land for me. I wasn't looking for a religion at that point. I didn't know what I was looking for. I just knew at that point that I wasn't looking for that. And I looked into Buddhism, and I just kind of went all over looking for all sorts of things. And like so many of us, I think it was a podcast that I picked up of Rhonda's, and I was like, I like how she talks.
Mm-hmm.
I like how she explains things. I like that she's not dictating. And I leaned into the free stuff, and it all kind of made sense. And I've got Celtic ancestry, so I'm Welsh by birth and by parentage. So I have a link into that kind of Celtic world, and it's always felt like a really kind of sacred part of me, despite not living in Wales now. And it kind of sang true. But I think the beauty of the teachings through the Centre for Shamanism is that it is very much take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And I know so many of us say that, but it's so true. There's no no book of truth or this is the way it must be done. It is whatever works for your journey, take it, leave what doesn't. And I love that. And that's very much how I approach the rest of my kind of spiritual approach, I think, with picking bits up.
Yeah, I think that's what drew me to the Center for Shamanism too, and Rhonda, was the fact that it's like, here are some ways of doing this. Here's the framework, but you also have to make it your own. And I think that's what's so attractive about that particular path. And I of course have Scotch Irish in my ancestry, so I think that was another reason why I was drawn to that particular lineage to study. And I had studied a flavor of shamanism that came out of South America, but it just never landed for me. It just didn't. It was a good academic study, but there was no, like, I didn't feel it. I didn't feel it. So it was, when I found Rhonda, I was like, I found my people.
Just feels like that. Yeah. It's lovely, that connection. It's, yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about was, and I'm not even sure that, and this might not have an answer that can be broken down into something simple, because I think it could be simple but incredibly complex at the same time. But how do you recognize when one of your clients or patients, depending on how you define them, has something spiritual going on versus something that's emotional?
Oh, you love these questions. It is both really simple and really complex, in that I am an intuitive healer. So I will get a sense before a session of what's needed, or I will get a pull on a conversation to follow that thread. And it is an undeniable knowing that I in that sense, when I'm in my shamanic therapist guides and I'm tapped in with my guides, that I can't ignore. And I think in my mind, they are all part of the whole. So I have the ability to be able to deal with the mental, the emotional, the physical, the spiritual. I have the tools to be able to deal with those. And depending on where I'm getting pulled, it may be expressed in one kind of body of healing, but it might be rooted in another. So there might be a physical affliction, but actually that's rooted in an incomplete stress response from a previous traumatic experience. So yeah, that's probably the simple answer. Is that what you were?
Yeah, I think so. And I think I said this before we started recording, and I've said this for long-time listeners. They've heard me say this probably more often than they would like to hear. But my therapist gave me great coping skill sets, tools. My coaching mentor changed the way I processed information, but it was my spiritual training and spiritual practices that allowed me to embody that wisdom. I would not have achieved the level of healing that I have without those spiritual practices. It would have been, it just wouldn't have been possible. So what do you wish therapists understood about the soul's role in healing?
I think a perspective shift to realize the soul is not defined by trauma. The soul experiences trauma, but it has a perpetual ability to be able to recover, to grow, and to choose a compassionate outgo. I think what I experienced from a traditional talking therapies experience was labeling, was you have this, this, and this, and all your symptoms are all because of this. and you've now been put in a nice little tidy box, and there'll be medication that's attached to that, and we'll sit and we'll talk about it, and we'll scratch the surface, but we'll never go deeper. But the soul has an innate wisdom itself to heal if we have the skills and the willingness to tap into that and listen.
So in shamanic practice, there's a concept called soul retrieval and power retrieval. And what I found in my personal experience is I attribute that to a large part of the healing that I did in that spiritual and training and ritual space, right? Because I've talked to a couple of therapists about this, of you have a person that comes and they talk about the same thing over and over again, and they're trying to logic their way out. And I mean, I've done this myself, into a better place, but there's this part of them, the soul part, or the power loss in the past. And I even question how much healing you can do if part of you is living in the past, right? And you're not. All of you is not in present time, from a spiritual standpoint and from a mental standpoint, right?
Yeah, you'll be constantly gardening around the hole that's missing. Like, there will be. I had this conversation with my therapist, who is very non-spiritual, which is a really interesting integration. She's very good at what she does, but we have had conversations about how our two worlds meet. And I said to her that I see soul loss, power loss, like inflammation. It's a natural protection system from the body to say something's wrong, we need to protect ourselves. If we're aware of that, we know that something has been taken away, has been removed, something needs to happen before it comes back. If we don't make those changes, then it's not coming back. We won't be whole. We'll constantly be sitting in that state of inflammation or disease. And she understood it in that way. And I think there will always be stress and trauma. It's part and parcel of our human life. If we can go back and deal with any unresolved issues, we can process those, we can consolidate them, not even perhaps deal with them, it's too flippant a term, but if we can address them, we can release the attachments to them and stop them taking our energies, resign them to the past. They are part and parcel of our story. They're a scar and they belong as part of our parcel, but we can stop them being raw. Then we can bring all of our energies into our present to fulfill whatever our calling is, but acting in a sense of partial without soul retrieval, without power retrieval, we have a lack of tools to be able to address our kind of current situation. It can be very frustrating.
And I think that for me, how this showed up is it just felt like there was something missing. But I've also had the experience where something was returned that I did not know it was missing, because it was missing for so long. This was my normal. And then to have that restored, it was such a profound shift. It was like, I didn't even know it could feel like, I didn't feel like this, right? That type of sense of wholeness was at a different level.
You just learn to function at that less than wholeness, don't you?
Right.
I think I see clients that are in that perpetual plateau, that they'll go to a new therapist, they'll go into a new modality, and they'll be telling the same stories, and they'll be reliving it, but not connecting it in a way that is making any meaningful change. And it's then that a spiritually organized modality or a spiritually aware modality, I think comes into its own, because we can look at things from another angle that many traditional talking therapies don't come from. And we can see the pieces.
So how do you discern between when healing has shifted from doing the work? I'm beginning to hate that phrase, by the way, because I think it's doing the work, and I use it myself, but I'm like, I need to come up with something different, because it's like, to truly embodying change or transformation. How do you discern? What are the telltale signs or that you look for or can feel into that you can go, okay, all right, this is a profound shift. This is an embodied shift.
Yeah, I think it's like any skill. It's that ability to be able to practice it consciously or unconsciously. I think when we first start doing things, we'll do the thing that we're not meant to be doing or we're meant to be aware of, and then afterwards we'll go, "Oh, I just did the thing." And as we're practicing it more, we might catch ourselves in the moment doing the thing or not doing the thing. And what I'll see with clients, and quite often I'll have to call their attention to it. I had it in a session very recently, and a client stopped herself mid-sentence and went, "That's not my voice anymore. I would say it like this." And I was like, that right there, that is your progress. That is your win. That is where you have retaken authorship of your own internal narration. And it's those, oh, I got all the emotion then. Oh, I love that feeling.
It is a beautiful feeling. It is a beautiful feeling.
Just amazing. And I think it's that when we look back and go, oh, I haven't done that for a while, from ourselves. And I do it as well. And I mean, I am on this journey as much as any of my other clients are. And that's what I love about this work. There is no hierarchy. I hold space walking beside you. I am not guru-ish and giving you all the fixing things. And I think it's an amazing thing when those shifts work. I think the flip side is when people are not ready for that shift. And that was a really hard thing for me as a therapist to be accepting of, because I knew the path that they needed to take, but that wasn't their time to take it. And I had to release any attachment to that, because their journey is their journey. And if it's not their time to do that, there's other stuff they need to be doing. And yeah, that was hard. That was hard because I internalized that as not as a failure, but as I'm not doing it right.
That happens in the coaching world too. And I think for me, it brings out that savior archetype that I've got so strong. Yeah. I call it my Mighty Mouse. Here I come to save the day.
I was going to say mine swung in like Tarzan.
Yeah. and that's, I think that will be one of my lifelong challenge points of being able to slow my roll and not do that, because so often it comes up in my human design. My personality sun, which is like the lion's share of my gifts, the gift of it is foresight, so I can see a lot of different paths, a lot of different ways. So it comes so natural to me. I'm like, why can't you see this? Because A, they're ready, and B, that's not my place. That's probably one of the strongest things in the training that came through, was dealing with that challenge of the savior archetype for me. And I think that when you said, I don't want to be a guru, I walk along the path. I also feel like that was something that was very strongly coming out of the training as well, because there's a sense of responsibility in the community that comes with that training. Yeah. And I feel like that'll lead me into my next question. we talked about what you wish therapists knew about the spiritual side of the house and soul's role. What do you wish that the spiritual practitioners out there understood about trauma and the nervous system, like the therapist side of the house?
I think, and this may be very coloured by my experience with non-spiritual therapists, with non-therapist spiritual people. I think there is a responsibility in managing, dealing with soul in any way, shape, or form to be educated, to be informed, because we cannot interact with one part of the being, whether that's soul, mind, body, whatever it might be, without affecting the rest. And it seems to be more therapists who go into spiritual work who will continue the academic learning than the other way around, in my personal experience. And I think there is a responsibility to challenge cure-alls. From a spiritual perspective, there are so many: drink this herb, do this ritual, burn this bit of string. And none of these singular things will fix anything, because nothing needs fixing. Nothing is broken. There is no, I was getting snake oils like salesman. There's so many kind of offers of just do this or go on an ayahuasca retreat. I know so many people who've had phenomenal turning points in their journeys after responsibly engaging with some of the dismissed medicines, but they are used in collaboration with other practices. They're not go and live for 20 years on your own in the rainforest and just eat mushrooms. I genuinely saw that the other day. That's why that's on my mind. Literally, this advert said, if you want to lose all of the damage that modern day society has put on you, 20 years in the rainforest eating off the forest floor, you'll be fixed. It literally said fixed. Like, the fact that that even exists is ridiculous, because there'll be somebody in their journey who is desperately looking as a way off that plateau and will fall into that. And it's the ethics. I think that's where we're getting to, isn't it? Which
it
comes back.
It really is the ethics. I mean, we find that a lot. I think culturally, especially in the West, particularly in the West, we want that quick fix, right? That silver bullet solution. Do this one thing, and then in the coaching industry, especially, that it's all like, well, you can manifest it, or you can do it's very surface level stuff. Now, I will say, I've been doing this for I've been in coaching and consulting industry for about 12 years since I left corporate, and a lot has changed, and there is a lot more discernment now, because I think enough people bought into that they're now asking different questions, and the level of trust is bummed out for so much, because there's so much noise online and so much bullshit online that it's like, and most of my clients come because they've already done a lot of stuff, and they're like, okay, I've spent a lot of money, I've done a lot of stuff, and it didn't work. And like, how do you, there's like, and usually I can tell pretty quickly if I can help you or not. And I'm not going to take your money if I can't help you. It just doesn't work that way for me. I've got to have a reasonable level of confidence there if I'm working with you one-on-one. And I think it's good that we're seeing this shift of discernment. And I've seen a lot of people fall out of the industry over the past probably 3 years. I think we're going to see a significant more of those in the next couple of years, as we have. I'll bring a little astrology in when Saturn goes back into Aries next year in February, because when Saturn is in Aries, it really shines a light on the charlatans, if you will. So I think collectively we're going to see a lot of that fall away naturally. But from a practical standpoint, I wish we've talked in the industry, there's been a lot about certifications and therapists have to be licensed. In coaching, you don't have to be licensed. You can just hang out your shingle and be done. The same way with any spiritual practitioner, just hang out your shingle and be done. But there are some, and I used to put a little bit more stock in the certification program in coaching. I'm a certified professional coach. But when I started seeing, well, you can pay $19 and become a certified professional coach, and it's endorsed by the ICF in a weekend, I'm like, come on, guys. Or you can be a shaman in a weekend by paying $49. Yeah. I think I'm like, okay, all right, that's concerning. And what I've chosen to trust is, okay, if you go down that rabbit hole, that'll make you crazy. So, so hold the space that you're meant to hold, and your people will find you. That is the path that I
genuinely, absolutely.
I think that's
agree.
And I have had other practitioners I've talked to that I'll encourage, because there is training out there you can get trauma training pretty reasonable for just to, and they asked me, well, why do you take this? I said, because I love to learn, but also I want to be able to recognize when I'm out of my league and refer out. And I have several therapists that I'm like, you know what? You need this type of help. Let me refer you to someone, because you got to take your ego out of it as a practitioner. I think that's the one thing around the spiritual practitioners and the coaches and whatnot. You have to take your ego out of it, because it's not about you.
Yeah.
It's about the other person, right?
Absolutely.
One of the things that was very apparent as we were going through training is you are a phenomenal storyteller.
Thank you.
And I always looked forward to hearing what you were going to come up with in your different sessions that I got to experience around the stuff that you've done. How are you working? Because I know you have to be working that into your work now.
I do.
Do share.
So I was forced by my peer group to do a podcast.
No pressure.
Literally, I was forced. There was all pressure, all of the pressure. I had no idea about the voice thing. I didn't think I had a particularly soothing voice.
Oh my gosh.
Genuinely, never ever heard that before that session. Now everybody says it. And I'm like, have you been talking to somebody? But I'm super grateful, because it was entirely out of my comfort zone. And it has provided, I get messages from people saying, 15 minutes just saved my weekend from going bad. I didn't throw my whole weekend away because I was having a bad day because of the tools in that 15 minutes. And it was lovely. And I use that storytelling in my shamanic practice in a way of bringing people into a place of safety, because the majority of people that I find are coming to me at the moment are looking for that, are looking for a place of safety. And I can create that, and I can create stories where they can re-find that, where they can find the healing they need, where they can escape if they need to. And so often it is very guided. There's an element of it within, so I do like blocks of sessions with clients, so we tend to have a story theme running through that as well. So we will pull out parts of where they are and what they need to be, and we will work on, one of my favorite ones at the moment is like regaining the right to self-define, rewriting their own story, and gifting that back to people with the ability to be able to take out what they don't want. It's their story. They can write it however they want. They don't have to be what they've always been told they've been by people that have no right to tell their story for them. And I love that. Story has always been really important for me. And I've written stories since I was really young. And I think that's the Welsh blood. Like, there's lots of story that run through Wales. So yeah, I love that you recognise all that. Thank you.
So I'm going to put a link to Judy's podcast in the show notes. Highly recommend. Like, her voice is magic, especially if you have you put your headphones on and you're just transported into this sacred healing temple of light. It really does transport you there. I feel like Judy will be writing a book sometime. I feel like no pressure, Judy, but I feel like
Don't start again.
I feel like that will be coming next.
There potentially will be.
No pressure there. Just a little nudge,
You don't do nudges.
I'm an Aries, man. That's what we do. What? Oh, I know what. What is your favorite season of the Celtic Wisdom Wheel?
I'm really leaning into the idea of the darkness at the moment. And the beauty of the Wisdom Wheel and the Celtic approach to that is that everything's born from the darkness. So whilst the traditional New Year is in January in the middle of winter, that doesn't feel right. Never did feel right to me. And it wasn't until Rhonda took us through that wheel and naturally the spring became the beginning of life, the growth. And I was like, of course, why would we be trying to correct all these things or do new things when we've got hermit energy going on? We want to be cuddled up with blankets. We don't want to be doing new things. There's no bouncy lounge out there or anything. And I love the idea of everything born from the darkness. But I always really struggled with the idea of the void. When we first visited the void, I basically turned around and went, no, thank you, goodbye.
Why don't you tell people what the void is for context?
The void is somewhere I didn't want to be. I can feel it now coming back as a memory. Physically, I can feel it. We're invited to the void, and Rhonda told us the void was somewhere lovely and relaxing and she could just chill there. And no, what? Oh, you joking? No, it was awful for me. It was like some sort of horror movie when they're going to go downstairs. And I was taking a step into this void, this space of nothingness. It was pure black. There was no sight. There was no sound. There was no reference points. There was just me. And no, thank you. I'll come back at the end of the session. Thanks. It was so intense. And that was at the beginning of our training. That was in the light and dark sections. And we revisited it later on. And I tried in between. And I had the sense of the story of Narcissus. So I had the echoed voice. And I was like, well, that's not even any better, is it really? Come on. What happened? I was looking for like a comfy duvet, or I was going to chill out in a hammock. Just going to have all this thrown back at me. But revisiting it now, it wasn't because it was empty. It was because it was so full of potential, of possibility.
Ooh,
there was so much there.
That's interesting. That's interesting. The first time I got dumped into the void during a shamanic journey, that was not the intent. It was, we were supposed to be doing something else. This, I think, it's in Rhonda's journey into Celtic shamanism, a 6-week course.
Okay.
And I jumped in and I came out and everybody was sharing their lovely stories. And I was like, I got nothing. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, it was dark. There was nothing there. I don't know what was going on. I didn't want to be there. And she's like, she took you to the void. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean?
Don't do that.
I had a very similar reaction. And then, but now I never thought of it as like potential, but I definitely can see that. Like for me, it's that liminal space where if I've got too much noise going on, that I'll do a journey to the void, and it like calms everything down so that I can just be and allow and surrender, which again, all of those things are very difficult or challenging for me anyway. But it's something, and much like yourself, I never thought the year beginning in January made sense to me. I started like waking up to the year around my birthday, which is late March, right after the spring equinox. And I'm just like, but I used to really dread the winter and the darkness. And I look forward to all the seasons now and appreciate winter so much more than I used to. So much more than I used to. There's a richness in the soil of it all. Yeah. So we're coming up on time. And what else would you like to share?
What else would I like to share? I guess I would love for people to know that there is never any need to outsource your own power to get to where you want to go. There will be people that will stand alongside you. There will be people that teach you new tools. There will be people that block your path and redirect your routes. But you will always have the ability to get where you're going if you're brave enough to face your own stuff.
Now, I usually sign off my podcast with find beauty every day and seek the magic in the mundane. So how do you find beauty every day and seek out the magic in the mundane?
I struggle with it, actually, and I have to actively remind myself. So I have a gratitude journal that I do every night as I go into the new. I look back and I will find the bits that were unexpectedly rich, not even good or bad, just I felt emotions entirely thoroughly. I sat with my dog and really connected, or I love acknowledging moments that have passed. And I quite often collect bits of nature to bring home. I say that as I'm looking, there's a bit of tree that's fallen off that's covered in lichen. It's beautiful. And I put these things around so I can be reminded that this is a stick that somebody would probably have walked past or kicked out of the way, but actually now sits on my altar as a reminder of beauty and simplicity, just being exactly as it is.
Well, I appreciate you being with me today. Why don't you tell people how they can find you? And again, I will put all the links in the show notes. And I personally recommend the podcast because it is amazing.
Bless you, thank you. So the easiest way to find me is on Instagram, and I'm the Seer and Shaman. So it's SEER and Shaman. And there's links in there to the podcast, to one bookings, to free resources and all the stuff, and probably in the future a book. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And remember to find beauty every day and seek the magic in the mundane. Thanks for tuning in today. As always, take what resonates, leave the rest. Let whatever landed move through you in whatever way it needs to or wants to. And also, if you want to explore more, you'll find more information in the show notes. If this episode stirred something in you, please share it out or leave a quick review. It helps so much and I really appreciate it. And remember, this work is about integration, and it always starts with self-trust.